Hello and welcome to Now You Novi. Hi, boss.
Greetings. Hello.
This is new. I haven't been on in a long time. Damon's been sitting in and hosting, and I haven't been on with you in an even longer time here.
What's the last time I was on doing this last year?
No. Really? I feel so bad.
Look back, listeners, and see if that's the case or not.
That's a challenge. I'm going to have to go look. I don't know. You're so popular, too.
So popular. I know. Everyone is always, hitting the socials wanting to see me back on again.
Oh, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Busy. Always busy. Something going on. We got the budget meeting was on Monday, and then State of the City is on Friday. So
it is a busy week here.
Yep.
It is a busy week. You laid the stage for a great segue as to what we're going to talk about. You said the last time I had you on was to talk about budget. Well, here we are talking about the budget a year later. How you feeling about the budget?
Yeah, it's a different budget, I guess, than we've done in years past. We've kind of had a different look at where we are at with what we proposed, and we're good for this next fiscal year. But with the out years, what council's always kind of acknowledged 2 and 3 for a 3-year budget, and those out years are looking pretty scary because we've lost some revenues that we've always counted on. The state made some decisions, and we're like $800,000 lighter than we used to get from the state.
So let's paint the picture for those listening. Novi operates a general fund budget of how much? 50?
It's about 48 million or 44 million. Yeah. So.
And the largest source of that general fund budget is property tax revenue.
Correct.
Right. And then we get other revenue, state shared revenue has gone into that pot or that bucket, if you would, which has been cut. I would say drastically, but significantly might be a better way to put it, by almost 800,000.
Yeah. So the state collects all the sales tax throughout the whole state, and then redistributes it by population. And in the last budget deal, they reduced that even further because they wanted to give more dollars for roads, that they're going to increase taxes for marijuana use. And that's still kind of being hashed out. But regardless, we're not getting that money that they reduced it down for the general fund, which pays for like our salaries, police and fire, our other staff workers here, code and compliance, building inspectors, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I think everyone can relate in what's going on, if we would dumb it down, if you would, to their own home budget, right? Cost of groceries, gas, everything has increased. Maybe your salary hasn't increased. So sometimes you see that gap. So I guess in simple terms, that's what we're seeing, right? So the cost of doing business for Novi, salaries, our gas, our electricity, providing services is rising. State shared revenue has decreased. We are limited by how much of an increase our taxes can go up. So residents, business owners, I would say are safe, if you would, that city can't just go, we need more money. So we're going to, instead of valuing your property at X this year, it's going to be Z next year, right? So we're limited by what we can increase. So we're seeing this unfortunate, and it's a sign of the times. We're not an anomaly that the cost of doing business is rising, but our revenues are flattening, if you would. Fair?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. The years when we were maybe capturing maybe a new $1 million in terms of new tax value with new buildings going up or subdivisions coming online, we're not seeing that like we used to, especially with the commercial side of things in terms of new North American headquarters. Businesses are kind of very cautious in that and not making those huge investments like they used to.
And we can look back 6 years ago, COVID, which we don't even like speaking of anymore, but it really changed the landscape of how businesses operate, right, in traditional brick and mortar. So you add that factor in to Novi has developed rapidly. It grew, I would say rapidly from the 90s to the 2010s maybe. So over a 30-year period, growth was rampant. Now, sites, we still have developable land, but sites are more challenging, right? It's just not as free and open as it was, and still desirable, very desirable. But again, COVID, more challenging sites, it's just not as easy for people to invest.
100%, but also the cost of building those buildings have also increased exponentially as well.
So that would be the third leg of that stool.
Correct.
So all of those things are making the economic times a little more challenging for Novi, all while wanting to maintain the quality services that residents and businesses are known for, right?
Correct.
So we want to maintain that high standard and provide programs and services that we are known for, but yet it's becoming challenging as you look at putting together a budget.
Yeah, because all of our employees who do a great job day in and day out, they need the respective tools to do those jobs. So our police officers need those vehicles to be out there patrolling and responding to calls. We have to replace those vehicles. So I mean, those are those officers. That's their office essentially, driving 100,000+ miles for over 4 years or 5 years when those vehicles need to be replaced. So we don't want 200,000-mile vehicles out there patrolling and trying to and responding to emergencies. So we have to purchase those vehicles, and those vehicles aren't cheap as they used to be. So we used to get government contracts, and now those automotive manufacturers have done away with those special pricing for us. So we get the same pricing that anyone else does, and then we have to outfit it as with those special technologies to support the officers as well. So that Explorer might be $45,000, and then we have to put in $30,000 worth of technology in there to support what they need to do on a day-in-and-day basis.
So all relevant, all makes it very easy to understand. I'd say we're not in a budget crisis. We're in a pivotal point where we need to shift our model, right? I think Member Martinez at the budget discussion said, this is like caution, this is a yellow light that's flashing. Our 3-year budgeting process, I would have to say, is a godsend almost, because you're looking out ahead. We're not just balancing for this year. You're already looking ahead as to what the forecast is going to be in 27, 28, 29, and beyond, right?
Yep. So we, in our world, we call fund balance, which essentially is our savings account. And that savings account is being used more and more in those last 2 years. And City Council has been very adamant about that since I've been here for the 15 years, that we can't use that for operations. So they have tasked us with going back to make sure we don't use that savings account for those 2 years. And we have to reduce our costs on doing business or capital projects that we have on tap to make sure that savings account is not used in those out years.
So for those listening, the savings account, the fund balance, would you say it's like your home savings account? What would Novi need a large savings account for?
So any kind of big catastrophe, any kind of unexpected blip in anything in terms of, hey, we had a emergency that we need to respond accordingly, just say, and we have to plan accordingly for those kind of things. But when there is a presidential visit, we have to have as much overtime as possible to provide the officers to protect those candidates or the sitting president to come here. We don't get reimbursed for those kind of things. So sometimes we might have to use some of that money in that fund balance to support those kind of things that we don't see. When there was an unexpected incident at the state fair a couple of years ago, and we had a lot of response to that shooting. Again, that is stuff that we didn't plan for and we can't plan for. So we might have to dip into that sometimes for that. If there is a vehicle gets in a large accident or something, we need to replace that vehicle. And again, we might have a schedule for that replacement, but we may have to go to the council and ask for that savings account to be used. So those are kind of one-off things for in emergency situations, not for, hey, we know we need to replace this widget or do this project. Can we use that savings account year in and year out? That's not what it's there for.
Okay. So very much like a savings account at home for unexpected items that arise. We've got to be able to pay for them, right? So that's what fund balance is for. All of the other things, we do have other funds that don't make up the salaries, so the general fund, right? Or some equipment purchases, our road fund. So we are going to do some roads this year. You want to share what those are?
Yeah. So we, right now I know our residents are very unhappy about some of the roads that are being done, not necessarily by us all the time, because it's a partnership. We're doing Beck Road, which has been on the horizon or on the plan for many years, from 11 Mile to Grand River. Oakland County is doing Novi Road, and then Wayne County is doing 8 Mile, finally, the bridge. But in the next budget, and it might not happen in 26 per se, it might happen in 27. We have the 12 Mile widening. That's in conjunction with the Road Commission of Oakland County, since they own that. So it's Beck East and widening that right where the railroad tracks are. Then Napier at 9 Mile. Again, that's in partnership with the Road Commission of Oakland County. There's that intersection of Napier and 9 Mile. We're going to be making a roundabout there to make the intersection safer. And then we're also looking, we got some money from SEMCOG through the federal government for a roundabout at 11 Mile and Taft. So if anyone goes, air belongs to Parkview or the Meadows or the other school over there, I think Woods. I mean, it's always a traffic cluster. So this is going to help that, because everyone sits at the four-way stop and say, are you next, are you next, are you next? And it just takes forever. Bottlenecks up.
So I think a message I'm hearing is continued investment, right? One thing Novi doesn't want to do is rest on our laurels, and infrastructure, roads, water and sewer are a large part, I guess, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but I think sometimes things that are forgotten or not as visible, we take for granted. As a community, as to how fortunate we are to have that continued investment. Many times I go to other communities, and you and I've talked about this on the east side, some of the aging communities, and they don't invest in their roadways, and they wait for the county or somebody else. And it's unfortunate. And I'm driving on major local roads. I can't even imagine what the neighborhood roads look like, right?
Yeah. And for a perfect example, in the winter, those communities that we grew up in, they might say, hey, we're not going to come plow that street until it's like 4 to 5 inches. And I mean, we all see those social media posts where, cars are barely getting through there, and you gotta, if you have a Mazda Miata, you're not getting through there.
Right.
But yeah, those different funds are for those purposes. We can't use water and sewer funds to pay for our police officers or firefighters.
Correct.
Road funds can't be used for producing the show. Those funds have to be used for those specific purposes, for rehabbing them, for plowing them, for redoing them. Same thing, water and sewer has to be just for anything purposes that are fixing those water lines or those sewer lines, water main breaks accordingly.
Yeah. Any final parting words as we approach the new fiscal year and beyond, I guess, for the next several years? I think obviously to residents and businesses, we are going to strive to maintain the quality of level of services that, everyone expects of Novi. But any thoughts about moving forward?
It's a partnership with our city council. They've been great to give us the time we need to make these decisions and come back with them with a plan before the start of the next fiscal year in order to get ahead of that for years two and 3. But it's all the processes that you oversee in terms of that engagement. So we're going to be going to the residents with a survey. So how are your services doing? Are we missing the gap here and there? So we want to, per city council, wanting to go back and ask residents how we're doing, and that's going to help us in terms of formulating that or fine-tuning the next year's budget to seeing if we need to move or reallocate resources to to take care of what are those services people don't think we're doing well in.
So good stuff to come.
Yeah.
Anyone that has been listening and is we've piqued their interest on the city's budget, the recommended budget, and then soon by July 1, the full budget will be available on the city's website, but cityofnovi.org, city manager's office, the finance tab, all have access to the budget. And Victor actually outlines, if you don't want to read the 100 and some pages of the budget, Victor actually has a budget message at the very beginning, which very succinctly, I think, lays out where we are financially, talks about some of the priorities, and explains it in very simple to understand terms the gap that we're seeing and the forecast. So it's a couple pages long, but I think it'll really provide a great overview as to the financial health of Novi.
So the budget book is a great job that our community relations team and our finance team does a great job pulling together to make it readable, but also any kind of capital projects. We have a great website that our information technology department pulled together that makes that really easy to understand. Hey, where in the city has a map, and it has by year, and it has by what function. So that's out there as well. So we put a lot of effort in making sure that information is all available for our residents and stakeholders to see where money's going.
I promise to have you back on soon because we're going to talk about the capital improvement millage renewal.
Ah, yes.
Because that'll be coming up as we get all that education comprised. We're close, but I think you mentioned the capital improvement program. There's an opportunity also to educate that those dollars that we're looking for in a renewal cannot be used as general fund dollars. Those are for special projects, large ticket items, etc. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for you and I to walk people through some of that information, what we've done in the last 10 years and what we want to do. And again, drive home. This is separate from general fund dollars. Those renewal dollars, if captured again, can only be for capital items.
100%. So I might be able to wear the same pullover again with my logoed
we gotta switch it
logo.
up. We gotta switch it up. Otherwise, it looks like you've only been on once, right? People will go there. He really was only on once.
There we go.
You gotta switch
That'll
it
be
up.
Proof.
Yeah, but thanks. Simple terms. Novi's still financially healthy. No cause for alarm. Just resetting, pivoting, and we're realists, right? We have to budget accordingly, fairly, transparently, being open and honest with businesses and residents as to where we are and what you're doing to ensure the viability of Novi and setting us up for long-term success.
100%.
So thanks for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. And again, if you have an interest in Novi's budget, on the city website, cityofnovi.org, all the information is there and readily available at your fingertips. Until next time, Now You Novi. Take care.